Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider episode 47. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm John Cage.
And I'm Andy Lewis.
And you're all in beautiful high fidelity today. It seems that Mr. Lewis has a brand new webcam.
I do, yes. And it's bloody good, actually. I quite like it. You can see me in high def. Is this like the upgrade to high def on telly when you start seeing the wrinkles in porn and things like that? You start to see
put it
things
away.
you really don't want to. Oh.
Yeah, normally we get the laptop webcam, which means we get a shot of your crotch because the webcam's too low on your coffee table.
Well, you know, I personally, I think if you're missing out on the crop shot, you know, that's a detriment to you now. Your life will be less fulfilled.
No, Andy, no, you're wrong. As usual.
Very wrong. You're very wrong.
I don't get how you get the crop shot, though, because it's angled up at my face.
It's because it's normally quite low down.
Right. You see the full torso shot.
Yeah, you're wearing a shirt as well this morning, Andy. You look like you're about to either come in or go out of a meeting.
Whereas Steve and I are in scruffy hoodies.
Well, yes, I have already had a telephone conference this morning.
Oh.
Bloody hell.
I have. Not for work at all. My brother just rang me. Hey, it's still a telecon.
I guess.
And I'm on the tea this morning.
Well, good. It's this morning. It's a good job you're not on the beer or the wine.
When you say tea, do you mean G&T? You joke, but I did actually have gin on my porridge the other day.
What?
Not just straight gin. Like so.
No!
So I've been making raspberry gin, and we had all the raspberries left over from it. So I was like, I wonder what. I mean, would it be bad, Kaz? And Kaz gives me a look like, yes, John. Yes, it would be bad if you had boozy raspberries on your porridge for breakfast. I was like, well, they need using anyway. I'll give it a try. Turns out, works really well.
You go to work drunk then that morning, did you, Mr. Cage?
It was a weekend.
I was going to say, on that day, the level of coding standards were considerably lower than usual.
You can't get lower than 0.
That's true, actually. We've got to assume that you actually end up writing some code at work, because these days you don't seem to get much done because of all the other stuff going on.
No, I'm a shit shield for my team.
I know that feeling. I'm the shit shield for the company, remember?
Yes, I salute you, sir.
That's all right. I have a minion now. He takes a lot of that. It's great. I can sort of dust myself down a little bit.
Nice. Good to have a little break from things.
It is. That's about work. It's the weekend. It's the weekend. We're recording at the weekend. This is Saturday morning. This is how dedicated we are to you lot, people.
Yeah.
Well, it's more just because I want to spend my Wednesdays actually playing games rather than recording with you two morons.
That's probably fair, yeah. Morons?
Yeah.
You,
Bit
Steve?
harsh. Bit strong.
For this early in the podcast?
Yeah, I usually wait until you've said something moronic first, don't I?
Exactly, yes. I won't take long, don't worry.
So you guys have got a big list of news articles you wish to talk about.
We have. I'll say we. John put them in.
Lots of bits and pieces.
John, our news ferret.
I've been diligently fishing out news articles several months old, ready for everyone to consume.
As per, we are at the cutting edge of obsolete tech.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the last episode we talked about Keyforge, but because it took us 2 weeks to edit it, all the news we sped up was out of date. It was quite funny how everyone picked up on various Facebook groups. Because they talked about it as if they didn't know what they were on about. It's like, well, yeah, it was right at the time of going to press.
It was, yes.
Well, not at the time of going to press, but at the time of recording.
Yeah.
There was a small technologically based delay, let's put it that way.
So, some games and stuff. I noticed that there is now for sale Ominoes Hieroglyphs.
Ooh.
That's been on sale for a while, John, to be fair. I mean, not to point out that this information is 2 months out of date, but...
Well, I got an email from them saying, did you know
Yeah.
Ominoes Hieroglyphs is on sale now? And I thought, ooh, that's interesting. I might just go and buy it.
Yes, well, what happened there, I can give you the backstory here, because I did a little bit of ferreting at UK Games Expo. And Andrew had a few copies at Expo to sell, But unfortunately, a lot of them had not been cut properly. So all the little tiles, they're basically square tiles with a symbol on, but they'd been cut squint. So some of them weren't quite square, so it looked a bit on the shoddy side. So Andrew basically just sort of went back and said, right, we'll get them all sort of redone, and it'll take a couple of months. So here you go. Now they're all, I assume, up to scratch, all square and ready to go.
Did you guys played this before? I'm sure you told me.
Yes, it's
And
very
did,
good.
I didn't.
I did. Yeah, it's very good. In fact, I beat Andrew at it.
I think he let you win.
No, he didn't. His wife said, no, he's shit at it. But no, it's actually a really nice advancement of Ominoes. We have talked about it before, so I won't go into any more detail here. But just suffice to say, it's a lot less luck based than Ominoes. Obviously, that's just dice and place things down. Hieroglyphs, you pick tiles, which gives you the luck element, but you can choose what to do with those tiles. So there's a little bit more thinky about it. It's a little deeper, but it's by no means a complicated game. So it's definitely worth getting, and a nice advancement of the concept.
There you go. So if you look up yaygames.uk, and on their website there is Knows Hieroglyphs. So I found out about this via a podcast from The Secret Cabal, but I realised, this is what I was saying about several months old, I realised that I'm actually on a several month backlog of Secret Cabal stolen news items. So so they featured this thing. It kickstarted, but you should apparently be able to get hold of it via BackerKit. I think something from Monte Cook Games, which is basically your best game ever. So it's a guide to playing and DMing RPGs better. Not specifically for one in particular, but like a general advice from a chap who's been doing RPGing for 40 years with input from...
Monte Cook's like a big name in RPGs, yeah.
Yeah, and he's had feedback from a load of... I looked up a reasonably large selection of also highly experienced RPGers. So I just thought, like, given how much D&D we've been doing recently, and how a lot of us are sort of relatively new to the idea, and still trying to, get the most out of our game, I just thought it was a really interesting point to have a look at.
Is it just for DMs or is it for players as well?
Players as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's a bit in there for everyone, but I think also, like, as a player, knowing a bit about what it's like to be a DM helps you be a better player.
Yes, I can see that. Having, I do both sides. Obviously, Steve does both sides, so I can see why. Because you can understand sometimes the dilemma the DM has about revealing certain information at certain times, and how annoying it is when players do things that you're like, oh, for the love of God, don't do that.
It also means that you control the DM more effectively. I mean...
There is also that, like when some dick opens a door, runs into a room, casts a spell, and then gets smacked on the head.
Did that happen, Andy?
Maybe.
To explain a bit better what happened is, somebody had like a fight in one part of the dungeon, and they fought some goblins. So Mr. Lewis's character, Arrakis the Tiefling, ran forward, cast Thunderwave, dispatched a big group of goblins in one go, and feeling very confident, chased down the goblins that were running away. Not forgetting, or I don't know whether he forgot or just didn't care, that his comrades were then dealing with an ogre that was coming up behind them.
The latter, I just didn't give a shit. Confidence, no ability, that's what it was.
Confident they had, so he charged into this room, saw a bunch of cultists hanging round, having a staff meeting, and decides to jump onto the meeting table and again cast Thunderwave.
Which, to be fair, worked.
Unfortunately, the cultists had a lot more hit points than the goblins. So whereas it splattered the goblins against the ground, all this did was just basically knock their hats off. At which point, the lead cultist cast Hold Person on Arrakis. Arrakis failed his save, and then got beaten to death by about 6 of these cultists. The rest of the party, we measured it, was something like 150 feet away, so they were like 3 turns of sprinting away from Arrakis.
Good skills.
Had I not failed that wisdom saving throw, that room would have been engulfed in a lot of fire. Sadly, the D20 was not friendly to me at that point, and I got, turned into tiefling pate.
Oh dear. And what have we learned? Absolutely nothing. We'll split the party every single round.
The plan was sound. It just relied on luck. And my luck ran out because until that point, I had a 100% hit rate.
To be fair, you guys were rolling really well because I'd set it up so like goblins are low-level bad guys, but I'd set it up so they had tactical advantage. They tip tables over for cover, so they were all in like 3/4 cover, which is +5 bonus to their armor class. So basically, I wanted these guys to be afraid of the goblins. No, everyone rolled over 20 on every single attack roll against these goblins, just sniping them from behind cover.
This is when I just ran in and went, "Fuck this!" Bang. Everyone in the dungeon's now, what? Someone's here.
That is the problem with those kind of spells.
It was hilarious, though.
They are reasonably announcy.
Yes.
Yeah, see, Arrakis just didn't care. He was so confident that he just battered everything in his path. It's like, right, who's next? Oh.
Me.
The thing is, though, he managed to put the cult leader on his arse with Thunderwave as well. That's just the same individual basically managed to cast whole person from his arse, and it was successful. Oh dear, never mind.
The best part was when Andy's like, right, I'm going to look for spells that allow you to use vocal components, and everyone goes, Andy, you can't talk. You're stuck by you're in paralysis. Oh shit.
All of my spells, in fact, the thing is, they still require movement as well, and obviously I couldn't move, so I was screwed.
Unfortunately, because I was out doing exercisey things, and by exercisey things I mean cycling around in the pouring bloody rain.
Yeah, you chose well, didn't you?
Well, to be fair, I agreed to do it before, like several weeks in advance of when I could see what the actual weather was going to be like, and it was for a leaving do, so I kind of felt a little bit honour bound to do it. So as a result, I wasn't there to orchestrate recording the stream.
You missed out. Everyone's missed out.
Yes, well, it sounds like that's probably the truth. But I would be interested, dear listeners, if you would let us know whether you've A, listened to any of our D&D streams, and B, enjoyed them or not. If there's any tips that you'd give us to improve them, that would be very welcome.
Which, by the way, they are available at twitch.com/Polyhedron Collider.
Twitch.tv/Polyhedron Collider. But they're available live via Twitch, and then about 2 days later, Twitch say, no, we're not hosting that anymore, and take the video down. However, we do then upload them to YouTube.
Yes, which is on youtube.com/user/Polyhedron Collider.
Yeah.
Because I've screwed up the YouTube accounts, and I've now moved it to a group account so both of us, or all of us, can add video to it, but that means that youtube.com/Polyhedron Collider now goes to an empty account, which is really annoying. And I can't work out how to move that. So it's youtube.com/user/Polyhedron Collider. And you'll see there's a playlist of all the these podcasts are on there, and there's a playlist of all the streams we've done, the D&D streams.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, I'm going to try and do something as well on there. I am thinking of doing a D&D vlog as well.
Ooh.
So,
cool.
Just some kind of, I don't want to say DMing tips because that suggests that I know what I'm doing.
You do know what you're doing.
But more of a kind of, this is what I've been learning from DMing the games we've been playing, and mixing some RPG reviews, because we've been playing a lot of RPGs, and I'm kind of getting a bit bored of writing reviews. So I'm enjoying doing the podcast, but I'm getting bored of writing reviews on Polyhedron Collider. So I'm thinking RPGs I'll do something different with. So maybe do a little review of the games we've been playing, a bit of a review of Storm King's Thunder and Legacy of the Crystal Shard, and talk about Roll20 and that kind of thing.
Don't leave a tiefling or a bard in charge of a party. Things like that.
That's your decision. The players can choose who they want to listen to. The fact that the rest of the players listen to you two is baffling.
Their own fault.
Yes.
To be fair, they are starting to learn not to.
One thing I will say, actually, I'll say this on the podcast to everyone, is both you're two separate groups playing this game, and neither group actually has any kind of group strategy. No one ever says, well, I'll do this and you do that, or I'll do this. Everyone's just like, right, I'm going to do my own thing. You know, like in the Avengers, if you watch any like the on the Avengers cartoons they did, cartoon movies. The whole thing about that is when they all join together, they're all so proud of themselves and think they can deal with all the bad guys themselves that they screw it all up because everyone goes and does something randomly. But you guys have no teamwork. It's just like, I'm going to run forward and do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this.
I think that's a little harsh. I mean, last time we successfully, cornered someone who's following us by means of teamwork.
True, that was the first time I think I've ever seen you work as a team.
Arrakis' approach was mostly teamwork. It was basically the team will deal with the ogre and I will do everything else.
To be fair, actually, most of your party is chaotic in alignment, so it does make sense.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So,
speaking of dungeons, boys.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yes! Beat it to the shit link, yes! You put something here about a shit game, John. Why?
Well, I was going to try and sell this, and then I realised that I'd written all the notes, so you'd already seen where I was going with it. But there's a new CMON minis game coming out in the near future, which
is inevitable. That could mean anything. There's a new CMON miniatures game coming out.
So what I was originally going to do is go so guys, I've got something for you here. New game. Dungeon crawler. Ooh. It's got very nice miniatures in it. Ooh. It's featuring Steve Jackson and it's Munchkin based. What?
You had me at Steve Jackson. Up until that point, it was like, that sounds pretty good. And then you said Munchkin, at which point you took a huge dump on it.
Have either of you two played Arcadia Quest?
No. Don't believe so.
Right. John, you will love this game. Andy, I am not quite sure. Now, Star Arcadia Quest, which is the sci-fi version, is on Kickstarter right now, and it might actually have finished by the time we actually put this episode out. But that's Eric Lang, that's CMON, and it's very Munchkin-y. And I think you could actually just reskin Arcadia Quest with a Munchkin theme, with a couple of slight variations, and you'd basically have a game. And Arcadia's Quest, in my opinion, is really fun. So this is Eric Lang, this is CMON, and this is... Now, I'm just looking at it. Andrea... I'm not going to pronounce that surname right. Charieso? I've not heard of her, so I don't know what else she's worked on.
Could be a dude, if it's Eastern European.
Could be a dude. Sorry, yeah, could be. I just assumed with a name called Andrea that it was a woman. And I will no doubt be chastised across the internet for forever now.
Yes, you see, assumption is the mother of all. So,
so yeah, it's a 3 to 6 player game, push your luck tactics, and the idea is you try and level up your character. Whoever's got the highest level character with the most stuff wins. Every time you can fight all the monsters and stuff, you can run away if you realise you've bitten off more than you can chew. But if you do that, you attract shame, in inverted quotes, which you get penalised for at the end of the game.
Do you have to walk naked through the streets with everyone shouting shame at you, like in Game of Thrones?
It could be like that, yeah.
Okay, count me in.
So I thought it sounded like it could be good fun. We'll just to wait and see when it comes out.
Any idea? I assume this is coming to Kickstarter.
They just announced today, back in the end of July.
If it's CMON, it almost certainly will be on the Kickstarter.
That they were teaming up with them. They didn't mention Kickstarter 2019. There you go.
Oh, that's way off then, blimey.
So we are ahead of the game. Yes!
That means it'll come out like
2022 or
2010 or something like that, yeah.
2010, did you just say?
2020, I think.
2020, I mean.
Yeah, well done. Good man.
Yeah.
Dickhead.
It's too early. I haven't had enough coffee. I've only had 3 cups of coffee. It's not enough.
It's like a pig's tail today.
Like a pig's tail?
It's too early. Oh, look at him. His head.
Do you know what's really bad? I think that's an awful joke, but you know I'm going to use that in a couple of weeks, and Amanda's going to slap me.
Oh yes, awesome.
Have I told you guys my new crap joke?
Go on.
Why do the Norwegian Navy
put
barcodes on the side of their ships?
Don't. Just don't. Just cut his feed now.
So that when they come into port, they can Scandinavian. It's genius. I love that joke. Wow, harsh crowd.
Oh, bloody hell.
We should record when we're drunk again. It works better.
Right, more importantly, the Nemesis Rulebook is out. They say final rulebook, but I don't think it will be the final rulebook because since it got released, they've had a lot of... Well, some people have criticised it, I think unfairly, because I've read it and it didn't seem that bad. But there are a couple of typos and things in it, so they have admitted that, okay, guys, we might have screwed up here. So they're going to sort of go back, re-edit it, and release a final version. It has, thankfully, at least in my eyes, it seems to have addressed a lot of the issues that we had when we played Nemesis at City of Games.
Like not knowing how the game ends.
Yes, basically, yeah. So they basically stuck that in, which is kind of important, you know, knowing how to finish the game. So there's a massive section on all of that because there's loads of different potential outcomes depending on what happens and who does what. So they've addressed all of that, and it kind of goes through in if this happens, then this, if this happens, then this. Then basically you've got two objectives: complete your personal objective and survive. So even if you complete your personal objective and get to the pod, if the ship blows up, you're dead. So you lose.
Because in the original
sense.
In the original version, that wasn't at all clear.
No,
I
exactly.
won by blowing up the ship and running away.
Yes, exactly. So no, you can't do that anymore. So you have to survive. If the thing goes into hyperspace but ends up not at Earth, you lose, etc., etc. So they've addressed all of that, which is great. There are now rules for if you are eliminated first, you can take control of the invaders, which is kind of fun. Okay. So not everybody's kicked out straight away, so that's good. And apparently that makes the game even harder because you've got a human controlling the enemy rather than the dice.
Random.
Yeah. So to me it seems pretty good, just as an overview. There's a few wordings that need to be tidied up a little bit just for the English version, but then again, you know, these guys, their first language is not English, so I think it's forgivable. But generally speaking, personally, I thought it looked pretty good. So there we go.
Okay.
Definitely a step towards the final, even if it's not quite the final.
Yes, yeah, it's pretty much done now. So, I mean, it looks more like there's a game there now, and there's two sides of the board, I think now, if I remember rightly, and the second side is even harder.
Ooh.
Yes, there's more. It's more corridory.
Because the first one wasn't at all hard.
No,
hang on.
Push over, yeah.
It's more corridory now. So essentially, if you get noise around the room, basically, that gives you an indication of that. Yes, I have fully backed Nemesis.
Oh, you went back in?
Yeah.
After backing it for £1, you've gone back in, have you?
Yeah. Well, the backer kit came out, and I might have inflated my my backing from minimum to maximum. Go big or go home.
No, I think go somewhere in the middle. That's where it's at.
No, you see, that's just wishy-washy. That's fence sitting.
It's tactical play, my friend.
Indeed. Well, they do look like pretty miniatures, so, you know. I'm not all about the miniatures, but I clearly am. So,
aren't you?
Speaking of all about the miniatures, Deep Madness is nearly here, and I am almost shitting my pants with excitement because that is a lot of miniatures. 163 to be precise.
Oh, bloody hell. Am I right in now hearing that they've now said this is never coming to retail?
Yeah, the most recent update from Dimension Games is that they thought long and hard about it, and they were originally planning to stick it on the shelves, but the margin that they get, or lack of margin that they get for distributor fees and things like that, makes it slightly prohibitive for them to put on the shelves. They haven't ruled it out completely, and they'll probably sell bits and bobs at things like conventions and shows and stuff like that. So it's
when they're basically paying it, you're basically selling it themselves, yeah. Yeah,
so they're basically they're cutting out the middleman in a way. So watch this space. Obviously, the game's got to turn up and be worth playing first. Not that it really matters because I've got everything for it. So it's kind of tough shit, Andy, if it's rubbish, but I don't think it will be. It does look really, really good. And I've seen a bunch of... I don't usually go for unboxing videos because I really don't see the point, but I watched the ones for this and went, oh my God, I basically got an erection. It's beautiful. It really does look fantastic. Oh my God. So.
Do you know what? I thought it was better not having the crotch shot. But having it described...
Oh dear. But yes, no, I'm very excited about that. It should be here in a couple of weeks. It's the boat has arrived in France, and distribution has begun. So hopefully by the end of this month, I should have 10 boxes of miniature-y goodness. Yeah.
Where are you going to put it all?
I have no idea. I have no room in my Galax anymore. It's going to occupy 2 cubes on its own, I think. Oh my God. I'll find somewhere. And a moving house, so, I can get another Galax. It's all fine. Don't worry.
Well, let's hope it's a good game. Let's hope it doesn't turn into another Dark Souls.
Yes, I'm sure it won't.
Well, the fact that you're actually getting all of it means already it's better than Dark Souls, because we are now 2 years after the initial promised date, and I'm still waiting for the add-on. My add-ons haven't arrived because I bought one of the dragon miniatures, and there is absolutely no sign of the Kickstarter exclusives at this point.
Jesus, really? That's terrible.
There is no... So all the things that were supposed to be like, okay, these are the things you get for backing the game, have not been seen at all.
Oh, wow. So have you backed another dog there, Steve?
Well, the only reason I'm saying this is because at the moment, Steamforged Games have got another Kickstarter up for Horizon Zero Dawn. And I haven't played the Horizon Zero Dawn video game yet. I've got a PlayStation, which is what it's on. And I haven't got around to playing it yet. But everyone I know who's played it really, really likes it. And I looked at the miniatures for this and went, oh, this actually looks really nice. Oh, hang on. Whoa. This is Steamforged. Whoa. Yeah, hang on. I look a bit deeper and it's like, this is just like Dark Souls. I'm not convinced they've actually designed this game yet, because there's no rulebook up yet either. I'm just think they put some basic mechanics together and some miniatures and gone, yeah, we'll sort out that afterwards. Because there's a rumour I heard that with Dark Souls, I can't remember where I heard it now, it was on an interview, they basically admitted that they took like a weekend cottage and designed the game over the weekend.
And it shows, having played Dark Souls, because it's a big pile of bullshit and chips.
So, I feel like saying this is like a public service announcement, because Steamforged Games, because they actually had a previous name, they ran some Kickstarters under a name before that, which they ran Guild Ball under, but as Steamforged Games, they've run Dark Souls as their first Kickstarter, Resident Evil as their second Kickstarter, God Tier as their third Kickstarter, and Horizon Zero Dawn will be their fourth Kickstarter. And they still haven't delivered everything for the first one.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's a pretty telling sign, isn't it?
Do you think they're doing what Game Salute were reported to have done? Basically fund one Kickstarter with using the money from the next one? Or they're just shoddy?
I don't know. I couldn't say. That would just be speculation. But at this point, to me, that's a red flag. It's a bit of a sign that this is probably not worth... There's a risk here. I mean, there was a company that admitted they were doing this. Do you hear about Space Goat Games?
Yes. They basically begged for more money.
Yeah, they did the Evil Dead board game and they did a Terminator board game.
Yes.
So again, there's parallels here because they're licensed products. And they went on another crowdfunding platform, basically begging for money to try and fund the first board game they kickstarted because they'd run out of money.
Yes, I saw that. There was a massive backlash, understandably. Going, hang on a minute, you lot have got 3 million quid. What the hell have you been doing? Just giving people each other piggyback rides for 3 years? Sort it out.
This is exactly like those really expensive headphones. 200 quid. Never got them.
Yeah.
Are you never going to get them now, do you think?
No, it's gone.
Oh dear. See, I've never had a problem.
But similarly, they had the cheek to send out a thing saying, we're looking for investment to do the next series. Like, it's your chance to invest in the company and we'll give you some shares and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you've not even given me the headphones that I asked for. Why on earth would I now invest in more money in your company when I've not seen any return from my original investment?
Isn't there supposed to be a rule that says you're not allowed to start one Kickstarter without finishing the last one?
I doubt it.
I think there was some Kickstarter did police it in a little bit of a way, but I think all the company had to do was ask them, and they go, "Oh yeah, all right then."
You'd like to give us some more money? Oh, go on then.
You can't have 2 Kickstarters running at the same time.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, sure.
So you could only run one project at a time. That was it.
Yeah, okay.
But at the height of the Game Salute, you mentioned the Game Salute issue. At the height of the Game Salute issue, Game Salute were basically doing serial Kickstarters. So they'd have a Kickstarter, it'd finish, it'd be like a 2-week gap, then they'd start another 4-week Kickstarter.
Right, okay.
They were basically running, like, I think 10 Kickstarters a year.
Bloody hell.
At the height of their... Yeah. And as you said, they just tried to do too much. And the story is they were trying to fund previous ones on new ones and that kind of thing. So,
speaking of Game Salute, actually, they've just they've currently got a Kickstarter running for the expansion to Planetarium.
Ooh.
Which
like
obviously
now,
I have backed. Obviously,
we would recommend that people go look at that because we all really like Planetarium.
We really did. I haven't played it for a while, but it's a bloody good game. But I think I quite like what Game Salute have now done, based on, obviously all the previous shenanigans that happened. But they seem to have gone kind of back to basics, really, and they're releasing smaller, slightly lighter, but really reliable releases now. And it seems to be working because Planetarium's very good. I quite liked Farlight, although it wasn't as good as Planetarium, but that was delivered as well.
I thought it was a bit lacking, Farlight.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And then, the expansion to Planetarium is now out on Kickstarter. It's $29, I think it is. There's a hell of a delivery cost on it, so it's a bit expensive, but I think it'll be worth it. It adds additional planet types and various other bits and bobs like comets and things like that. So more mechanics, basically.
Okay, so it just adds into the existing game.
Yes, it's going to be one of these more is better sort of things.
I like expansions like that, where you just shuffle them in and then it's like you just got more.
Yes.
More stuff could happen. It's a bit more random.
Yeah. The basic mechanics of the game are basic. I think they're essentially the same, but they're just adding more things to it, which sounds pretty good. So, yay!
Nice.
Cool.
So we mentioned Keyforge in the previous podcast.
Yes. A game I'm actually getting more and more excited about as time goes on.
To be honest, I'm more interested in it, having seen some of the feedback from our previous podcast where we got shot down in flames. Yes. Yeah.
Hey guys, you lot are talking shite. Oh really? Because we've never done that before.
Well, yes, it's a podcast.
It's our podcast, yeah.
So the one thing that I thought was interesting in particular is that there is going to be some kind of handicap system. So one of the things I didn't like about the game, or what I'd read about the game, is the idea that you're just going to get various different decks. They're pre-chosen, so there are going to be some that are better than others, but there's going to be an app tracking all this stuff, and you'll record your wins and losses and things. So on average, you should start to see which decks are better than others when you play with them a few times.
Combos, yeah.
Yeah, and as you play with it, it will start to show what should be a handicap. So I thought it was quite interesting.
I said the more I hear about this, the more I'm looking forward to trying it. Actually, it does sound quite interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens when tournaments, because it's Fantasy Flight Games, so Fantasy Flight Games like to support their tournament system. So it's going to be interesting how many people are going to turn up with a deck they've played with and practiced with, and how many people are just going to buy a random deck on the day, kind of thing. And
you kind of think like there's likely to be two separate kind of like channels of competition. Like you say, one of them, they give you a random deck on the day, like you pay a certain amount, basically the cost of a deck or something. You turn up, and then that's the deck you have to play with, and whoever wins gets some, I don't know, some bonus. All the other decks or something.
Well, the FFG usually do prize packs. So if you do, like for instance, that's an interesting one. How are they going to do this? So like prize packs for X-Wing, so I've been to a few X-Wing tournaments, are usually alternate art cards. So some of the ship cards or the bonus cards, you'll have an alternate one with a different art on it. So it's exactly the same card, but looks different. And they also give things away like acrylic tokens, play mats, that kind of thing. They're usually things that don't make the game better, but just like bling out your game a bit more.
Yeah, they don't alter your play. It just looks nicer.
Yeah. So they're not going to be able to do the. They can't say they can do the alternate art cards if the card back is printed already. So you can't mix and match cards.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued as to what they're going to do as the prize packs. Actually, of course, play mats are obvious. Maybe they'll do acrylic tokens and things like that.
Maybe. Watch that space.
Mm.
So yeah, maybe I was more cynical than I should have been. Now knowing a little bit more about the game, so I may be tempted by that one. I'm not sure.
As I said, I will probably grab a copy of that. I'll probably grab a copy of the starter set and maybe a couple of decks. Because I know I tend to play games with our D&D friend Adam, so I tend to play with him on a Wednesday. He really likes card games and CCGs, so I think we'll both give that a go and see where we go with it. Now, the problem is I don't know when it's actually coming out.
Probably Gen Con, I
FFG
would
site.
estimate, or Essen.
See, FFG don't make a
Not
big
Gen
deal
Con,
about
yeah,
Essen.
Really?
They don't tend to. They don't tend to do big releases. It's usually that the European companies do the big releases. According to FFG website, it's currently at the printer. So that could mean absolutely anything.
That's going to be
official word is
That's going to be
Q4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so usually Fantasy Flight Games have like a big release mid-December. So if you remember this time last year, December had Fallout and New Civilization game and
Streets of Arkham.
2 other games that I can't remember.
No.
Yeah, I think Streets of Arkham came out. So usually what happens is like a week before Christmas, they release all these games and we have to scrabble to try and buy them.
Yes, and we did.
We did.
Or rather, I did, and then passed them on to you. It's like, hey guys, Toys and Games and Books has got a shitload of stuff. Do you want some? Yeah, all right. It might coincide actually with the release of the next expansion, speaking of Mansions of Madness, because that's going to be November time this year, so they may coincide with that.
Well, I am hoping to play Keyforge in a couple of weeks' time, actually.
Ooh, where?
Because in a few weeks' time, I am going to go to Tabletop Gaming Live, which is in London, on the 29th and 30th of September. Now, I'm going to go on the 29th. I'm going to pop along. I've worked out I can get a cheap train ticket if I've actually bought a cheap train ticket because I booked it at a sweet spot. So I've got a £40 train ticket for £12.
Nice.
Bargain.
So I'm rather chuffed with that. So I'm popping along for the Saturday day. This is, if anyone knows, this is Tabletop Gaming is a magazine that's available in the UK, and they're doing their own, this is their own first convention. And I think the plan is to extend this so this will become a yearly thing. They've got plenty of exhibitors lined up. Now, guys like us will recognise quite a few of them. So Asmodee will be there, we know that. We know Mantic Games are going to be there, and then there is a whole load of other publishers and what have you all signed up, ready to go.
Nice.
Ooh.
Now, our friend Mr. Paul Grogan is going to be doing a couple of seminars there, I believe.
47 in a row.
Hey! He's doing a little cheer. And he has also said that he's going to bring his copy of Keyforge along, so I am hoping to have a go of it there.
Excellent.
Also, I've noticed Wildlands is going to be there, and I'm hoping to have a game of it then. Because I had a look at Wildlands at Expo, and I was really intrigued by it. So hopefully I can get together a game of that.
Brillo bananas. Where's Alexandra Palace then? Because you've said that's where it is.
London.
Nod.
Right.
That's about as far as I know at this point.
Okay. Full research, as expected.
Have you not used CityMapper?
No.
So CityMapper is this awesome app, right? It goes on your phone, and what will happen is I will get off the train at Paddington Station, go to CityMapper, and just type in Alexandra Palace, and it'll go, get this underground and get off at this stop. And I go, all right then. Or get the 42 bus, then swap at such and such and get the 52 bus.
Nice.
That sounds quite handy.
Almost. Do you need a ticket, or is it basically just sort of show up and buy yourself in?
Yes, you can buy tickets now.
Right.
I don't know whether tickets will be available at the door. It depends, of course, how popular it is.
Okay. The reason being is I need to go visit my brother, who lives just outside London, in Reading, which is admittedly a bit of a drive from London, but still free accommodation and only 2 hours drive.
Not really just outside London.
It is, yeah. It's not far. It's basically the end of the M4 and turn left. which makes things potentially easy. And at the end of the month, I do need to go and see him because he's only recently moved. So I promised I need to go and see him. That's actually why he rang me before this show. It's like, you haven't visited yet. No, you're right, I haven't. Everybody else has. Yes, I know I'm a terrible brother, but still. So...
At the same time, the best and worst brother.
Indeed, yes. So there is a possibility I may be able to join you, Steve, but obviously I will have to check with the boss.
Ah, indeed. A weekend ticket is £25 plus a £2 booking fee.
That's a lot.
So it's not the cheapest of conventions, but it is in the middle of London, so...
True. Oh well, have fun if I don't see you there.
I intend to. But we'll see what it's going to be like. It's going to be interesting because there's been a mixed reception for this convention.
Really?
I think a lot of... Well, I did hear rumours that the exhibitor space was quite expensive as well. So being in the middle of London, I think, has upped the cost. You know, for both exhibitors and visitors. So.
See, everyone should have a convention in Birmingham because it's in the middle of the country and very accessible and also near us.
And easy for us to get to. Yeah.
Yes.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, obviously, just coincidentally, it just happens to be 40 minutes drive from us.
Or 50 minutes on the train.
Yes. Although if there's traffic, it's about an hour and a half, but never mind.
Well, that's what we're excited about. What have we actually been playing at the moment?
Nothing.
You've been playing quite a lot.
I have, right. Well, the reason I've been playing quite a lot is I've looked at the games I've got to review and suddenly gone, oh crap, these are all Kickstarters and they're all hitting Kickstarter now. In fact, most of these games are on Kickstarter right now.
Actually, I had that problem the other day. I realised I had a game that I'd not reviewed for since it was thrust into my hands at UK Games Expo, and the publisher was like, have you looked at it yet? Oh yeah, I'll do that, don't worry.
So... I'll start with the simplest one, the quickest one to get through. I played a game called Simulation Theory.
Cool. Is this related to simulation theory as in the universe is a simulation?
Oh, yes, it is then.
Rumbled. John, you are some kind of sorcerer.
I am someone who listens to the Infinite Monkey Cage and I am a huge geek, so I know about these things.
A nerd and a geek, both areas covered.
Yeah.
So this is a game where, yes, you are in some kind of alternate reality and you are attempting to break out and to
or
break out
is
and
it
win
an
the game.
alternate reality?
Oh, is it? Yes. So to break out of the game and to win, you have to go through 3 realities, which are dependent. You can play them in any order, but they're basically a fantasy world, swords and sorcery, a sci-fi world, so laser guns and shit, and a prison.
Wow, your descriptive powers are absolutely superb, Steve.
Need a beer.
It's a bit thin, this theme. Let's just say that. And the last one is a prison, and it's like, okay, I still can't work out if it's supposed to be some kind of sci-fi or fantasy prison or like a modern day prison because it was so thin. But here's the gist of the game. You choose, there's a grid of cards in front of you. So a 5x5 grid of cards, and your character has 4 different skills, and all you'll do is select a grid coordinate and a skill. And you'll use a couple of dice to select the grid coordinate. So, 3 across, 4 down kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
So you don't actually choose the grid coordinate, it's chosen for you by the Masters of Fate.
No, you choose it. No, you use the dice to select it. So it's just a method of showing what you've selected. So you're not
I see, right. So you turn the dice face round. Right, okay, so it's a marker, right, got you.
Yeah, use it as a marker, and you place them on one of these 4 skills to say which of the 4 skills you're going to use. You then go to that card and turn it over. If your skill beats the skill requirement on that card, you take that card and take a card from the treasure deck.
Okay.
Treasure deck is basically things that add to your skills. So I think you've got like mind, body, agility, and heart, or something like that.
Planeteers, Jesus Christ! Do your powers combine, and a guy in blue and red pants turns up?
With green hair.
You're trying to find the exit. There's 2 exits. There's basically one in the treasure card pile, and there's one hidden on the table somewhere, which has got a boss in front of it. So you have to beat the boss. That's it.
That sounds shit.
It sounds like you could just choose whichever things you could beat each time.
Well, this is it. They're face down.
Oh, I see.
So you don't see you. This is
Yeah,
what
okay.
makes it even worse. They're face down, so you can't choose what you're going to do. So what happens is we play 2-player now. I can imagine with 3 or 4 players, it's become more chaotic. You turn over a card and you go, right, I've picked strength and it's an agility test, so I failed.
Yeah, okay, I
So
see.
you put the card down and then you choose the same card, but you choose your agility skill and you turn it over and go, oh right, I've got that one now. Let's draw a treasure card. Now, occasionally, you'll both see this card and both go, oh, right, okay, we both want that, and you'll both go for it. And then whoever has the highest skill gets the thing, whoever has the lowest skill dies, and basically discards their character and draws a new character randomly from the deck.
Right, so there
It
is...
doesn't sound there's a lot to it.
No, there's nothing to it. That's the problem.
This sounds really, really crap. Like, you know that sort of memory game where you've got a grid of cards and you turn 2 over, and if they match, you keep them. It basically
match
sounds
pairs,
like that.
Yeah. It's a variation on that. Yeah, you're looking at cards, and then there's a smidgen of bluffing as you kind of go, ooh, oh look, there's this skill here. But what generally ends up is you're trying to either burn through the treasure deck to find items to improve your skills to beat the boss character, or you're burning through the treasure deck to find the exit card that's in the treasure deck.
Right, with almost no skill involved at all.
No.
Right, count me out. Next.
Sounds right up
Next.
Andy's street.
Oh yeah, that's exactly my sort of game. You know, that's on par with something like TI or Agra in terms of the sort of games I love. Yeah.
I don't even want to spend any more time on this podcast talking about it because I just think this game was just non-existent. It was just...
Right then. Next.
Yeah, no. Bin it. We don't give a shit. Good luck, guys, but no.
So, which one would you like to talk about, boys?
Trikerion seems to be at the top of our list.
But yeah, so this is Trikerion, which was on Kickstarter many moons ago, and now it has returned to Kickstarter with a vengeance, or at least with a plan. And this is a significant... the Dalgaard Academy is the significant expansion, which was on Kickstarter most recently. But Trikerion itself, the base game, is a worker placement, obviously, of course it is, I'm playing it, which you play a magician of one of 4 types. So either an illusionist or a mind reader or a sleight of hand sort of person, or a kind of a mechanical type one. So someone who uses
Props.
say props, yeah, basically, like sawing people in half and all that sort of shit. Or there's one that is sort of like an escape artist, so a bit like what's that dude in the 30s? What was his name?
Houdini.
That's the chap.
Your memory is on fire recently.
It's terrible. It's really, seriously, it's old. I'm broken. So you basically play one of a number of types of magician, and the idea is that you're trying to get famous. So that's essentially, it's victory points, but it's fame essentially. So the person with the most fame at the end of the game wins. And the idea is that you learn magic tricks of these different types, and then perform a show. So the shows happen in the Great Theatre, or one of 2 different theatres as you progress through the game. The theatres get grander as you go, which allow players to contribute more and more tricks to each particular show. So each show consists of a number of tricks, of which all players can contribute to. You can contribute more than one,
Okay.
and each show doesn't have to be solely one player. In fact, it almost certainly won't be. So essentially, each magician will probably contribute to each show, generally.
Is there like a limited number of slots, so you're all kind of
Yes.
vying for the same
Yes.
limited
Yes.
resource? And presumably there aren't enough that everyone can just do their optimum move.
Correct. Well, sort of, yes. Each show has a limited number of slots, yes, and so obviously everyone has to go in there. And each show will be run by one player. So if you choose to run a show, then you'll get some bonuses for doing that. But everybody involved in the show will get bonuses for performing their tricks, and each trick comes with a certain type of bonuses, like fame or money or whatever.
So why wouldn't you just run all of them?
Because it costs you resource to do it. So, and that's the limiting factor. So each trick requires that you prepare it, and in order to prepare it, you need to gather certain types of resource like wood or steel or glass or doves or water or whatever. And there are 3 levels of resource, and they get progressively more expensive. So the more complicated the trick, the more points you get for performing it, but of course the more resource it requires to perform. So there's this nice balance.
Okay. I've played this game, and on the base game, there's 3 basic places to go get stuff, isn't there?
Yes.
So to place your workers. So there's the theatre, there's the resources, and then there's the top corner, which I can't remember what that other corner is.
There's essentially the area where you get, oh God, what the hell's it called? Market Street, not Market Street, what the hell's it called? High Street, something like High Street or something. So basically town centre, where you can go and either learn a new trick, get money, or recruit somebody, basically, because you can have assistants.
Yeah.
And they help you with certain things like resource management. You can get extra workers so you can perform extra actions, and blah 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 blah. But the more people you have, the more it costs you, because you've got to pay your people and all this sort of jazz. So, but then there's the market, as Steve's mentioned, where you can buy your resources. Now the market mechanic's quite interesting because you start off with the lowest level of resources in there, but they're there for everyone to buy. But what you can do is you can kind of pre-order almost resources, which then come in that turn and then are available kind of the next turn. So you kind of replace one of the existing resources in the market because you want to buy it. But of course, everybody can buy it at that point. So you can kind of screw other players over, which is fun. Or it can also help other players as well, like Rich did when I last played it. He basically ordered something in and that I needed. I was like, oh, well, nice one. You've just saved me 3 actions there, Rich. Well done. But you can also fast order. So if you really want something that particular turn, you can buy it in, but it costs you more money in order to do so. So they do have a bit of flexibility there. But once you've got all your resources, you can perform any number of tricks that require them. So you don't like spend resources on each particular trick once. You can just do it. So basically you've got a few planks of wood, you can reuse the wood essentially. So once you've done that, you prepare your trick, which you do in your workshop. So you just spend some action points there to build the trick up. Then you go, right, I'm going to perform this on, say, Friday night in the Grand Theatre. And there are 4 nights you can you can perform your show on. There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you get bonuses or detriment, actually, depending on which day you choose. Because you'll get a bonus for Thursday, because no bugger goes on a Thursday.
So it's cheaper or something?
Yeah, you get a bonus to the amount of time you can take to prepare it, so you can perform more actions and perform more stuff basically for a Thursday, so it can be bigger and more spectacular. Friday, Saturday is just Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday, no bugger goes to the show on Sunday, so it takes you more effort to prepare on a Sunday, and you get less for it. But it's obviously a race to see who gets to the theatre first and picks the correct day. So, and you basically go through this, and then in order to each trick has you get these little tokens, essentially. You've got the 4 symbols of the type of trick on, and you've got to link, when you're performing these shows, you've got to put the tiles down in a certain way that they all link together. So obviously, one trick links to the next trick, links to the next trick. So you've got all these little symbols that you need to link together. And in certain places, you can get a bonus for making a trick link as well. But you've got to make sure that all of your tokens link up. Now, I've never had a problem with actually finding one that works. But I'd imagine once the game gets more complicated, and especially with the bigger shows, you might run out of tokens that have the right symbols in the right place. So, yeah, you're kind of limited to what you can do.
Are you also linking to other people's tokens in that?
Yes, exactly.
You can do, yeah.
So each token's like a square, and each corner is essentially a symbol of the type of trick, basically. And you put that on a space on a card on the trick on the show card. But then the next person comes along has to match a corner for a matching symbol of another corner. So 2 symbols have to connect, basically.
Okay.
And then obviously a different corner will link to the same to that token, and so on and so forth. But there can be 2 links either side, so you've got to make sure that the token you've got fits the space, depending on where people put their tokens. So, and you get bonuses for doing it.
Like building a ship in Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
a lot like that.
Yeah, very similar actually.
Yes.
What are the consequences if you don't match it then?
You can't put it down.
You can't place it.
Okay.
So you can't perform in that show then. I think Andy is missing the real crux of this game though.
That's not like him.
You touched across this when you asked your question, John. You said, why don't you just do like several shows, or why don't you do such and such, right? So you've got to get learn the pattern for the trick, which is basically get the blueprints for the trick, because of course tricks are either something complicated you need to do or need some props. You need to get the materials for the trick. You need to prepare the trick, and then you need to actually perform the trick.
Mm-hmm.
And you have workers, and you have one of your workers is the magician himself.
Yep.
So of course the magician has to go to the show. So that worker has to be the person who performs the show. Right? So you've got to do all those stages. In places where there is massive competition for spaces, and there's hardly any slots, and you have hardly any workers.
Yeah.
So your brain's
Standard.
going like, it's fine. I'll go grab a spare. I'll go grab one of these tricks. I'll go get the materials for it. I'll prep, and we'll go show this on this weekend. It's like, no. What you're going to be able to do is you're going to have to grab the trick and grab some materials for it. You're not going to have the workers to do anything else. Or you might go, right, well, I'm going to bag the Saturday night slot at the theatre. Shit, I don't actually have any of my tricks ready.
Just stand on stage
even though,
with bubbles.
yeah, but the interesting thing is you can't actually do that. You can go on and like grab a slot, and then everyone else performs in your show.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means you get points for putting on the show, but they get points for performing.
Yeah, so you're basically the host.
And here's basically how my brain went entirely through the game. I need that trick. I can't get that trick because Andy's just gone and taken the trick grabbing slot. Right, okay, I'll go just perform any old shite at the theatre. Oh crap! I haven't performed. I haven't got the materials. I need to do this really crap trick. Andy's just grabbed the materials slot.
Yep. Yeah, it's...
And I could see Andy's brain was doing exactly the same thing from the other side. I was all prepared to go do the Saturday night slot. Now Steve's going to grab the Saturday night slot. Ah!
Yeah, pretty much. Now, there is one more very, very, very important mechanic in this, which I did gloss over because you keep telling me don't talk about mechanics, Andy, so I didn't. But I'm going to. It's the really important bit is that during each round, every player has to predetermine where they want to put their workers. And they do that in secret. So you've got these little cards that basically determine essentially each location in the game. And you put this card down against each of your little workers on your board to say, right, my magician's, say, going to go to the theatre to perform, or my assistant's going to go to the market to buy the resources, whatever it is. But you do all of that kind of independently, and then you go through player order. So once you've kind of locked in where your people are going, that's where the fun starts. Because if someone bags the slot where you wanted to put your worker down, a lot of swearing happens, and you've got to kind of replan really quickly about where you want to send the bastard. Sometimes you can't, so you basically lose the action. It's really, really good.
It sounds like a brutal resource restrained competition, basically.
Yes.
Brutal is the word, yeah, because you've got to try and anticipate what your opponent's going to do. Because especially if you know they're going first, you're going to think, well, what do they need to do? Because if I go to the same places they're going to go to, well, I'm not going to get what I want. But then you're like, well, I can't do anything unless I've got I need the springs or the doves for this trick. If I don't get those doves, I'm screwed. So if Andy's probably going to go get some wood, so he's probably going to take that slot. So what I'll do is I'll plan for next turn. I won't do a show this turn. I'll do a show next turn. And then what does Andy do? Andy's got the initiative, and Andy goes and does a show and leaves the bloody store open. And you're like, no!
It's great. It gets even more chaotic when there's more, because I played it with myself, Alora, and Rich from our gaming group, so the three of us. And oh my god. I mean, it does scale slightly, so it does open up more worker slots, so you can actually... There is still, but it's just insane because people are bagging resource and competition for money and all that sort of stuff. It's just insane because you've got to kind of trying to calculate where the hell 2 or 3 other people are going, not just one. Oh my god, seriously! Everybody gets at some point.
I would have thought like the random element of that introduces would mean that this is a game that you enjoy less.
It's not random. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, you don't have control over it, though.
No,
that's not random, though, is it?
It's not random. No, but you can replan around it. That's the thing. Once you've put your thing down and say, right, the guy has to go, because there's a number of slots. Each slot actually gives you a bonus if you get there first, you can pick, like, you get essentially action points to spend on the little slot, and you can do more than one thing in the place. But basically, there are prime slots and there are less prime slots, let's put it that way. So obviously you want to go for the prime slot, but if someone bags that first, you can still go there. It just
You can
means
still
you can't
gain
necessarily
something
do
that might be useful later.
You can't necessarily do as much. But if you're banking on doing more than one thing in that slot and someone else bags the thing, the prime slot, you might not be able to do everything you want to do in that slot, which obviously has a detriment to the rest of your plan. So you kind of need to reorganise your brain based on what happens. So it's random in the sense that you have no control over it, yes, but you can still replan, which is the bit I like. So I don't mind randomness or stuff out of my control, provided I can do something about it. And that's still there, so that's okay.
Fair enough.
Although sometimes you do just, there's literally nothing you can do, and you just go, well, never mind. And you lose the action, essentially, because you've said, I want my assistant to go to, say, the market, but literally every slot's been taken by all the other players. Because you can send more than one worker to the same location, for example, at which point there are no spaces left, so you literally can't do anything at all. It's rare, but it does happen.
Fair enough.
But I like it, and the artwork is amazing. It's very, very beautiful, and an extremely tight game. I bought a small expansion for it, which I've not played yet, and the base game includes the Dark Alley, which is essentially another set of action spaces. Sorry? The Dark Alley. Yes, that's right. You heard it here first, kids.
And what do you get for going up the Dark Alley?
Well, you can't sit down properly afterwards. There's more action spaces, and there's more tricks, and there's more locations and stuff you can do, so it essentially just adds complexity. I have a sneaky suspicion that I haven't played the Dark Alley yet, but I think the game was designed with the Dark Alley in mind as kind of how to play the game. But I am yet to play it. But I really like the base game. It's very beautiful. If there's one criticism of it, I don't think there's enough rounds, because there's only a 5-round game, which is plenty, but I think one more round would be better.
How long does a 5-round game typically take?
It took us about 2 hours for the 3 of us. And I think Steve and I rattled through it in about an hour.
And do they steadily get longer each round?
Not really.
Sounds like most worker placement games. It all depends how quick people are thinking.
Yes.
Is this why I haven't played it with you guys yet?
Yeah, probably.
Once you get used to it, it rattles along quite quickly. The big stalling point is deciding where you want your workers to go at the start of each round. But it doesn't necessarily slow the game down in the sense that, like we talked about in Talisman, where you're basically waiting, for 5 to 6 of the game when everyone's thinking about what they're doing. Everyone's doing the thinking at the same time, so it doesn't really matter. And then once you're used to the mechanics of the game, you're basically, right, well, my guy's going there and doing this, my guy's going there, and it kind of rattles on after that. So there's less kind of waiting for other people to do their thing, unless, of course, someone takes your spot and you have to start rethinking on the spot, which obviously can slow things down a little bit. But generally speaking, as Steve's mentioned, you kind of have to go in with a primary plan and a secondary plan, just in case, or rather when someone dicks you. But I really like it. I think it's a fantastic game. I'd love to play it more.
It sounds like fun.
It is.
That goes for most games in our collection. I'd love to play most of my games more.
Yes. I'm not seeing anything new there, but
or even at all.
I remember Steve mentioned Trikerion to me. I think it was Expo 2016 actually.
It was when I had just bought Anachrony, because it's by the same people.
Yes. So that was 2017, wasn't it? That was last year.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I quite like the sound of Trikerion, and I kind of liked Anachrony, and I kind of thought, I'm not going to buy both. I'll just tell Andy that Trikerion's really good.
Sorted, and it worked.
And my plan worked, and you bought it, so we got a copy amongst the group.
And the expansions, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, that goes without saying with you.
But this is another game that David Turksy's had his hand in. Of course he has. Yep. He's been very involved in the major expansion recently, and it's another thumbs up. So really like that.
It's another Mind Clash game, isn't it? So yeah, yes. I'm quite impressed with Mind Clash stuff. Although neither of us were too interested in the Cerebria.
Oh yeah, we didn't sort of like the look of that. I've not played it, so I can't comment on actually how it works, but it just didn't appeal to me.
It didn't float a boat, did it?
No. Oh well. But Trikerion did. Good recommendations.
Yes. There you go.
Right, so two games which are on Kickstarter at the moment I'd like to talk about. So Andy has played one, John has played the other. And the first one is on a subject very close to our hearts, which is the brewing of malted and hopped beverages.
Beer.
As in the brewing of beer.
It's 11:30 now. That's beer o'clock, right?
It is. It is. And I've got a fridge full of beer. I should open one.
So, Microbrew is a two-player worker placement micro game about brewing beer. And when I say micro game, it is the weirdest of games ever. Goes into a little tin that's about the size of a large matchbox. And inside there is all the cards, tokens, and what have you need to play the game. And the aim of the game is you need to brew beer to attract customers to your brewery.
Okay.
And you'll do this via this little puzzle, basically. So what you have is your copper is this little board which is covered in these malt tokens. And you've got dark malts, medium malts, and light malts. And each beer will have a recipe which requires 4 tokens. Have a combination of those different types. And when you bottle the beer, you'll take a column of malts from the copper.
Mm-hmm.
So the puzzle element is you're going to try and move these tokens around to try and get the combination of malts you want. And there's some rules about how you do that. Like, I think it's dark malts have to go down and light malts have to go up.
That's right.
And they go diagonally, basically. So they can only move diagonally, these malts.
Okay.
And then over the game, what you'll do is you'll rearrange this little puzzle. You'll move malts onto your beer mat, which is basically your little bottle of beer. And then every round after that, you'll take a malt off, which represents you fermenting your beer. And then you'll try and serve them to these customers to try and get them to come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, it's a little wee worker placement game because you've got this little brewery mat, which is your worker placement. So you move every single one of these actions as a little worker placement spot. And you also have this thing where you have 2 workers. So as you place workers down, they can be bumped by someone else and come back to you. But when you run out of workers, the manager will move on to a different spot, which advances certain elements of the game and blocks off one of the spots as well on the board. So it's actually like a nice little worker placement game.
Okay, sounds simple enough.
This is the thing. It's actually a lot more complicated than that. This rulebook, although folded up into this little tiny thing, which is like the size of like a Munchkin size playing card,
yeah,
the little trains you get in, the ticket to ride. There's a lot of rules in here because there's all kinds of bonus things. Like certain customers will prefer certain flavors of beer, and they'll prefer a certain type, and some of them will prefer it spicy, which I've never heard of a bloody spicy beer, or some of them will prefer sweet beer. And there are bonus cards for collecting the most people who like British beers, and the most people like American beers, or the most people like sweet beers. Then the beers themselves, you don't have to match the tokens when you actually bottle the beer, but every time you don't match a token, you reduce the quality of it. You basically just make some shit beer.
Yeah, okay.
And you can rotate the beer bottle to say what the price is. Then your customers are either thirsty customers or satisfied customers. So if they're thirsty customers, anyone can serve them a beer. But as soon as they've been served a drink, they turn face down and they don't reset until the manager moves around to a certain point on the board and resets. Then there's Brewer's Favour, which are these little tokens which allow you to take extra actions if you do certain things. And it's not straightforward. It's actually quite complex.
Okay, so that sounds like something that Andy would like.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, I didn't think it was that complicated, but then again, I like games like Anger and stuff. So, but I can see what Steve's saying. For a game that's so small, it's unexpectedly complicated. And I have to admit, I think it's too small for what it's trying to do. I like what it's trying to do, I just don't think it succeeds.
Too small in what sense?
It's physically too small. It's a bit fiddly.
Okay.
For a worker placement game, it's a little too heavy on the look because you draw cards, and I'll let Steve probably explain this because he's gone through this more than I have. But I've played it now twice with Steve, and it seems that essentially you can either take one of 2 approaches. You can take the approach I took in when we played was try to perfectly match your malt to what the customer wants, which gives you, maximum scoring. But it's bloody hard to do that, and you're very dependent on what cards you draw. So invariably you end up not scoring maximum points because of the rules of how you move your malts around. If you end up with a light malt at the bottom of your pile, it takes you bloody ages to shift it around, which means you're not going to be able to match the customer's requirement. Or
so you just need to balance that, right?
Well, this is the thing. You take the other approach, which is basically what Steve has worked out how to do. Is basically just brew a load of shit beer and advertise the crap out of it.
Yeah, this is the problem. To play the game as it appears you're supposed to, which is to brew the perfect beer and serve it to a thirsty customer who really wants that beer. To actually get the perfect beer to meet a customer requirement seems nigh on impossible. And both you had this problem, I had this problem, and I played it with Adam last week, and he had exactly the same problem. It's frustrating because you think that's what you're supposed to do. Because the aim of the game is to get these customers to you and make them into loyal customers. But to do that, you have to solve the puzzle of the malts to try and get a column. Of all these things. Go on, sorry, John.
Is it like a sliding scale, or is it just like you either get it bang on perfect or it's a shit beer?
It's a sliding scale because you you score fewer points essentially for every non-matched malt in the beer.
Yes.
So that's.
But it's not points. That's cash. But you can't then use that beer to attract a customer.
Right, okay. So that's when you need the sweet spot.
Yeah, you need to get it perfect to attract a customer. But that means you also have to have that beer recipe. So if that beer recipe either hasn't come out, either isn't a tableau that everyone can get hold of, or in your hand, then you can't attract that customer.
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, and this is Rory pointed out to us, Rory from Board Game Meetings, he pointed out that, of course, you can serve a customer any old tosh and they're no longer thirsty.
So you can sabotage.
So the card goes face down. So you can sabotage somebody else. So as Andy suggested, you can make some, to quote Monty Python, beer that's like having sex in a boat. And
what?
Then
why is it like having sex in a boat?
Because it's close to water.
I've not heard that before. That's brilliant.
So you can serve them this absolute, hog's wash, quite literally hogwash, and then they go, "Oh, I'm no longer thirsty now, but I've just brewed your favourite bit. Yeah, I don't care. I'm no longer thirsty. I'm no longer interested." And I just found that the simplest way to do was to brew beer that made money. Mm-hmm. It didn't necessarily have to be perfect, but if you had and the cost of the recipes are all different, so some beers brew, can make more money. And then just plough that money into the advertising action, which, although it's expensive, allows you to basically just attract a customer. Basically, I took the Budweiser and Miller Lite approach.
Just about to say, I hate to say it, but there are companies out there that do that approach, and they do make quite a lot of money. So
exactly, that's the thing. So it looks like that's the way to go. You can just brew Carling or Stella, and it's fine because the masses will lap it up because it says, this is the best beer in the world. It isn't. But drink it anyway, plebeians. It's good for you. All right, then. And here's some football. Job done.
Oh, dear. You've probably just lost half our audience.
Hey, I like football. And it's true. Seriously, during watching football, it's always beer adverts. Carlsberg, Carling, Budweiser, all on. They're all advertised during sportive events because they're light. I would say they're refreshing, but they're really not because they taste like ass. And but it's heavy advertising for crap beer. You don't see Brewdog or Kutch or Tiny Rebel or Salopian advertising during these events, even though they are far superior beers. It's always the crappy ones with the massive industrial processes, because the masses are stupid and have no taste buds.
And also, you probably have to pay quite a lot of money to advertise in those slots, I would imagine.
Yes, indeed. So it is a self-perpetuating process.
Meanwhile, back to the game.
So I just find the game a bit frustrating. Because it feels like here's what the game wants you to do, which is brew these perfect beers to attract the customers, and I find it's too easy to circumnavigate it. I also think that, as you said before, Andy, I'd almost feel it would be better if this was just a full-size game for 2 to 4 people. And because the token, the microness is a little bit fiddly. I can see why they've done it. They've gone for this idea of it's going to be like a simple, cheap like game that can quite literally fit in your pocket.
The one just shaking at the microphone right now.
Yeah.
We heard the rattle. There you go. That's it. It's a little wee tin.
That you can fit in your pocket and take anywhere, and it's basically like quite an in-depth economic-y, Euro-y kind of game. But I just I don't want that. I would prefer this to not be microbrew, but just brew.
Yeah.
And it just be a game with a bit more bigger cards, bigger tokens, put a decent board out, make it 4-player.
Maybe they could literally do an expansion, which just basically makes the game bigger.
I think somebody's already said that you just buy 2 copies of it. And you just make it 4-player that way. But
I think it would be
so
better.
that's microbrew. It's cheap. It's about £12, I think.
15 quid.
It's on Kickstarter now. It's 15 quid, is it? And that's by One Big Elephant Games. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's getting a lot. We might actually be the odd ones out here because I've seen a lot of other reviews that are praising this game and saying it's brilliant. But I think it's got a couple of flaws which make it a little bit imperfect in my view.
This is a worker placement I will not be buying. Good lord.
Dun, dun, dun.
It does exist, apparently.
They do. Oh well.
So, the other Kickstarter game, which Andy has not played,
Bastards.
but John has. Well, yeah, I actually wanted to play this with you, Andy, because I think you're going to absolutely love this game.
I know.
And it's just ended up that time has meant that, well, the intention was we were going to play it today with you, but events have meant we can't. And this is a game called Nanty Narking.
Indeed.
Which is the weirdest name for a game I think I've ever heard in my life. It's probably some reference to something, but I don't know what. But here's a simple review for you. If you have played Ankh-Morpork, Discworld Ankh-Morpork by Martin Wallace, if you've played that game, then you have played Nanty Narking, because it is exactly the same game.
Except it's set in Victorian London.
Yes, rather than Terry Pratchett's Discworld.
Yep. Although,
and that's the only difference.
Can't believe I didn't know this before. Ankh-Morpork is London, turned on its side.
Yes. It's obvious now you've seen it, isn't it? It's quite ridiculous.
I can't believe I didn't spot that, but yes. So yeah, so we played it. We played it with Adam. There was 3 of us.
Yep.
And I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a very, very pretty version as well. So the original Discworld was quite bare bones. So you got the map of Ankh-Morpork, but all the things that went on it were wooden tokens. So they were wooden discs for your units and wooden towers, basically, for your houses. But this is all blinged out to the maximum, so everything is miniatures. And rather than having like 1 sculpt each or something like that, everyone's got like 5 sculpts, and it's just colour coded. So you've got like a little chap on a penny farthing, and you've got a little like dodger in a hat selling newspapers and things like that. And you've also got these massive miniatures of buildings that represent your buildings on the board as well.
Awesome.
Buildings.
Yeah,
we'll get onto that.
So, for those that haven't played it, the idea is you are given an identity at the beginning of the game, which means that every single person has a different objective.
Yeah.
And each identity is secret, so you don't know what other people are trying to do to win the game. The way you win is there's 2 forms of control in the board. So I think one player wins by controlling a certain number of sectors. One player wins by having a certain amount of their tokens on the board. One player wins by their monetary value, which is the buildings and cash in hand. And then one player wins if the game ends and no one else is won.
Yeah.
So it's their job. So this is basically asymmetric.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're all playing on the same rules, but it's only the winning conditions which are asymmetric.
Yeah, okay. So every player has essentially their skills, I suppose, are geared up to help them. No. You're not. So all the players are exactly the same. Oh.
You just have different objectives.
Yeah.
Are they assigned randomly then?
Yes, they're assigned randomly and secretly, so you don't know what other people. And then this is the important thing as well when you play this game is the crib sheet that comes with the game has got a list of all the objectives. Because to play this game effectively, you need to keep a careful eye on what other people are doing, and you also need to make sure that you're not blatantly going for your objective.
There are some
secret,
cards in the game. So the other thing is that one of those those cards gets put to one side. So you don't, and there are some cards that allow you to look at the remaining options, so you can kind of narrow down. Well, I know this isn't in play. I know this isn't in play. I know that isn't in play. But there's like 4 of this one kind of winning condition, and I can see that there are 3 still in the deck, which means that either that other one that I don't know about is that other card, or one of these guys is after that objective, which works well unless someone's accidentally put duplicates of a card in. Steve.
Now, in my defence, the original Ankh-Morpork only had one set of identities. Nanty Narking have actually made an advanced version which has got some variations in there, and I didn't spot all the variation cards. So I think I took 5 of the variation cards out rather than 7 of the variation cards out. So we had to do a little bit of a. Those are all the cards, John. Just you know what you're looking for. You sort them out.
Is this in a Steve in not reading the rulebook properly shocker?
No, this is Steve in not separating out the components properly shocker.
Right.
We found new and interesting ways for Steve to accidentally destroy one
Screw
aspect of the game.
I saw this at Expo, which is why I was interested in it, and wanted to play it, because this is by Phalanx, and I'm big fans of them.
Yes.
So obviously I've backed this. And I did want to play it, you swines. And it does look lovely, because all of the characters in the game are characters from novels set around that sort of time. So Sherlock Holmes, Oliver Twist, Artful Dodger, Irene Adler, all that sort of stuff. So it looks fabulous.
The prototype board we've been sent, the board itself needs a bit of tweaking colour-wise. It was a bit difficult to see some of the boundaries. So what you're doing is you're controlling territories on the board, and you're doing this by placing your workers, your units down, basically, so your workers, agents or whatever. And then when more than one agent appears in an area, then a trouble marker turns up, which I think one of the winning conditions is actually if enough trouble markers end up on the board, they win.
Yeah.
Some of the boundary between some of the reagents on the boards was a little bit complicated due to the graphic design choice, but the actual markers, these tokens, are absolutely beautiful on this new version. And what they've done as well is what you do is it's a typical Martin Wallace game in many ways, and it's based on the cards you play. Mm-hmm. You're given some cards to play, and each card will have like 3 or 4 icons on it.
Well, some number of icons. Some of them just had 1.
Some number of icons, which are what you can do with that card, and you play them in order.
Yeah.
So some of them might say you take some money from the bank. Some will say you place a worker on a spot. Some will allow you to buy a building. So all your actions are dictated by what cards you can play.
Yeah.
And some of those cards allow you to play another card, which is nice. So if you can try and chain them and play several cards after each other. And each one of these cards is a character from some kind of Victorian era fiction, as you said. So all these random different things pop up. But as I say, if you played Ankh-Morpork, which I'm imagining a lot of people listening have, then you've already played this game because it is exactly the same game. I mean, the rulebook is the same wording of the rulebook. They've just changed the graphics to match the new graphics. And all the cards, is my understanding, are exactly the same cards that were in the original Ankh-Morpork.
Did seem like a couple of them were slightly odd.
Yes. Now, this is the interesting one. This game has already courted a bit of controversy.
I was about to say, yeah.
So you know more about one than another, but one of the ones we stumbled across is there's a KKK card in this deck. And it was a bit kind of like, what's this in now?
Victorian London.
And now, I remembered after we played what this is referencing. This is actually referencing a Sherlock Holmes story about the 5 pips.
Oh, the orange pips? Yes.
Yes, because the orange pips was something the KKK did, and it appears in a Sherlock Holmes story.
Right.
But if you don't know that link, which you'd have to have read, I mean, the 5 pips appeared in the recent Sherlock TV series, but in a completely different way. And that was 5 pips of a telephone. But if you don't know that reference, this card looks completely random. It's like, all of a sudden, KKK in Victorian London? What?
This definitely comes back to Phalanx's, I wouldn't say obsession, but dedication to fine detail and accuracy. So all they've done really is just they've really gone into the source material for all the characters, which personally I really like. But yeah, as you say, Steve, if you're not familiar with where they've got the stuff from, it could look a little incongruous.
Now, you know a bit more about the other controversy they've had, don't you, Andy?
Yeah, the trolls.
Yeah. In the original Ankh-Morpork game, there were trolls that could turn up, which were random tokens that we placed anywhere on the board. So if you know Discworld, you know what the trolls are, and you know they don't get on with the dwarfs, and people don't like them there, and that kind of thing. And what they do is they're basically just other units, like neutral units that get added to the board. So they just add, the whole game works if a second unit turns up where there's already one, there's trouble. Basically, friction occurs, and all the trolls do is the trolls kind of a bit of a blocking thing. They reduce control and they add trouble, which can affect other elements of the game. So in Nanty Narking, because you can't have trolls, these have been replaced with immigrants.
I think they're actually labelled as new citizens on the Kickstarter page, but
They are now.
They are now, yes. And the miniature for these, the tokens for these, are a little Sikh gentleman in his turban.
Ooh, I didn't know that. I personally don't have an issue with it, but because around that time there was obviously a lot of colonialism with India, which is perfectly reasonable, and they are literally immigrants.
And it does actually parallel what the trolls were in Ankh-Morpork as well.
Yeah.
Much of what Terry Pratchett was writing about was social commentary of kind of Victoria, of the UK, and the trolls were seen as this kind of immigrant thing, and ended up causing friction with the locals when they came in. So I can see what they're doing, but yes, that's not gone down well.
No.
So one thing I would say though is that playing the game, I don't think they ever came up, and the same with the horse guards.
Yeah, because it all depends on which cards people use. So even though you will go through on most games 99% of the deck, it doesn't mean you'll play all the cards. And then there's the random events as well. And I think the trolls and the horse guard are in the random events.
Okay.
So we didn't encounter them in the game we played. And I said because of one of the characters' goals is to actually go through this complete deck of cards. You actually do see, I said, 99% of the cards in most games. So, but the random events are completely random.
Yeah.
Much to John's dismay, as his buildings burnt down several times.
No, it wasn't a random event that took my building, Steve. It was you. So I had no idea. Played this game, I had no idea that buildings could just be like with a single card just destroyed. So I thought I wanted to mask the fact that I was trying to accrue basically 50 gold or whatever, £50 worth of cash in buildings and money, didn't matter which. As long as I had that, that was my winning condition. What I didn't realise is that with a single card, Steve could just go, "Ha! Your building's burnt down. Sorry, John." So I spent ages saving up, built this building for £18, which basically meant I was, basically halfway to my winning condition. And then the next turn, Steve just goes, "Your building's burnt down, John. Sorry." I was like, what? I was 50% of the winning condition. I didn't have to build a building. I could have just held the cash and I would have been fine.
So I would say, never mind.
So I would say, if you're playing this game and you're trying to accumulate cash, building many smaller buildings makes a lot more sense than building one big expensive one, even if it does give you more cash as a result.
So it might be better to build a bigger building towards the end of the game.
Or just don't do it.
Winning line, or just, oh wow.
But each building gives you a bonus.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the reason I was trying to build this particular one. It's because it would have given me the maximum amount of cash per turn if someone hadn't burnt it down.
It sounds like Steve played perfectly tactically. Well done.
Yes, and to be fair, there were plenty of times where I did similar things to him.
Well, there you go, you see.
Yes.
It's almost like you have a reputation for being a dick, John.
I don't believe that to be the case at all.
There is a very good reason why I like this game. It's because I'm very good at it. Mm-hmm. I've won this game quite a bit, which is rare for me.
I'd definitely like to play it again. And I think knowing a little bit more about what different strategies there are, I think I would stand a better chance. I
would like to play it again too. Or rather, play it. See it again, play it once. But I am backing it, so I will eventually.
It's also quite quick. It's you can probably play this in about an hour once you know what you're doing.
Oh, wow, okay, that's good.
Yeah, and it's a full game when you get in here. You don't feel like you've been rushed, if that makes sense. If you feel like it's like, hang on, if I put one of my agents there, everyone's going to realise I'm going to go for this objective. So if I put them there, then I've got a move card in my hand I can use later. Right, I'll do that. And then, because there were several times I was one turn away from winning, and someone would remove my bloody agents off the board. Like, ah!
Yeah, nice. So I could see that you were heading in a particular direction, and I was deliberately just, no, you can't have a guy there, and he can't have a building over there, and you can't have a guy there. Actually, I really need to do something about my own winning condition at some point.
So it was Lords of Hellas syndrome. You're about to win. Q.
Yeah. I think you're about to win, if that's your win condition.
Yeah.
Is that their win condition? He's building buildings and amassing cash as well.
Yeah. Is that his win condition? I know. I'll use a special card and find out, the likelihood of it being that win condition. No, I won't, because someone screwed up the deck.
Someone. Nice. Well, it sounds good. I would love to play it. I really would, because I do like.
There's
Cratchit.
12 days. It's Saturday the 8th day, and there's 12 days to go on the Kickstarter, and it has already funded twice, basically.
Yes.
Over double the required amount.
I've had quite a lot of updates on the Kickstarter already since I backed it, which was 3 or 4 days ago. So
I'm quite tempted to back this as well.
You should.
Ooh.
So there you go. Could be another PHC 3 for 3.
Right then, gentlemen. It's been an hour and 40 minutes of us rambling and talking absolute nonsense.
So no change there then.
So to stop me from losing the rest of my hair from, I'd actually know the rest of my hair. No, I'm good. So to start me from losing my hair when attempting to edit this ramshackle nonsense, I think it's time to draw it to a close.
That sounds like a very sensible idea.
PHC insensible decision shocker.
But it's the morning, that's why we've not been drinking.
That's true, yeah. There's no alcohol yet.
Yet.
Time for some porridge.
Yes.
Oh, you're making me want to try gin and porridge now.
Boozy raspberries on porridge with a bit of syrup is extremely good.
Give it a go.
Thank you very much for listening, folks. We have been Polyhedron Collider. If you actually enjoyed listening to this show, please give us a review on iTunes and share the show with your friends.
Do it.
We are available on Twitter. We are on @PolyhedronC, which 2 days ago we surpassed 2,000 followers on Twitter.
Dun, dun, dun.
We should definitely
We're
drink
popular.
to celebrate that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to double check now, make sure 3 people haven't unfollowed.
2,000 people have got nothing better to do with their time.
2001.
There you go.
A Space Oddity.
See what you've done there.
We also individually on Twitter. I am @Wahoffelmadenga.
I am @SonicH with a 0.
And I'm @John_Cage.
We are on Facebook we are Polyhedron Collider on Facebook. We are at BGG Guild 2726. We are also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Polyhedron Collider, and youtube.com/user/Polyhedron Collider. There's a lot more things to talk about, and I blame John for starting a Twitch channel for that.
Yes.
Well.
It's all your fault, John.
Right, we should be back in a few weeks, hopefully.
Indeed.
Indeed.
But for now,
Yep.
happy gaming.
Enjoy. Try.
Catch you later.